Okay, so in this lecture, we're going to be talking about the all-important concept of bankroll management, and it's really something that you need to take to heart and something you need to understand and really follow if you want to be successful long-term in poker. And there are lots of famous poker players that have gone broke because of bankroll management, or they practice really poor bankroll management. And one person comes to mind. So Daniel Negreanu, most people know who Daniel is. In his latest documentary, Kid Poker, he talks about how he built up his role numerous times up in Canada. He'd fly down to Vegas and he'd go and try to take shots at the tables in Vegas to become a Vegas pro. Whenever he lost his role, he would fly back home the end of the weekend. He'd build back up his role in Canada, fly back down to Vegas, and if he lost his role, he'd fly back. And he kept doing that numerous different times to the point until he actually improved his game. He was able to maintain and build his role as a Vegas pro. So he practiced what I would like to call a very aggressive style of bankroll management. And he took aggressive shots. So he came to Vegas with a very small buy-in, a very small bankroll, and he was hoping that it would stick and that he would run good and build it up. But several different times in a row with an aggressive style of bankroll management, he went broke, went back to Canada, built up his bankroll again, came back and took more shots, and it took him numerous times to the point where he was able to stay in Vegas, and he ended up just staying there and not going back to Canada. So that's just one example of somebody famous in poker where they've gone broke because of bankroll management. Now, let's talk about the specifics of bankroll management and consider this lecture a primer on it, because after this lecture, we're going to take a look at a poker variance tool called pokerdope.com. They have the poker variance tool. And if you've been playing poker for some time, if you know your current win rate, then you can estimate, you can fine tune your actual bankroll requirements for yourself. So this is going to be a conservative introduction to bankroll management, and really just a gentle introduction. So let's talk about it. When we talk about bankroll management, and let me get these so I can use them as pointers. So when we talk about bankroll management, it falls on two different spectrums. We have bankroll management that's either very conservative or bankroll management that's very aggressive. And there's a spectrum of anywhere within here. Now, typically it's recommended, a general recommendation is anywhere from 30 to 40 buy-ins, which I have listed here. This is just a general, kind of like a blank slate recommendation, is that around 30 to 40 buy-ins is a fairly standard bankroll management practice. An old school style said that you should have no more than 5% of your bankroll on the table. Well, that's kind of old school. We're not going to practice that, and you'll see with pokerdope.com how we can base our actual needs on our certain aspects of our game, such as the standard deviation of our win rate, our current win rate, and the stakes that we're playing. So conservative recommendations recommend around 100 buy-ins or more. So somebody that is very risk adverse, it's recommended that they have around 100 buy-ins. Now, somebody that is wanting to take a very aggressive or very risky approach is anywhere between 10 and 20 buy-ins. Just understand that if you are somebody that's going to do something like this, you'll potentially go broke more than once. And it really is a factor of how well you play and what your win rate is. But lots of people that practice this style, they're okay with taking shots with bankrolls, with small bankrolls, and if they go broke, they just redeposit. So just understand that. I mean, the bigger amount of your, if your bankroll is a lot larger and you have a lot more buy-ins, if somebody has 100 buy-ins versus somebody having 20, obviously the person with 100 buy-ins is going to go broke a lot less than the person that has 10 to 20 buy-ins. So the risk of them going broke, and the actual technical term is risk of ruin. Your level of risk of ruin when you have a conservative buy-in is going to be really low. Your level of risk of ruin, or your level of risk, is going to be greatly increased when you're down here at the bottom with an aggressive style of bankroll management. So that's a quick introduction to bankroll management. Now, which one should you choose? Well, it's up to you, to be honest. It depends on how risk adverse you are. If you're somebody that's really risk adverse, then you may want to practice a more conservative style, somewhere between 30 and above buy-ins. If you're somebody that's okay, somebody that doesn't mind a lot of risk and they don't mind redepositing, then something like this is fine. And it is up to you, to be honest. And it not only comes to the amount of money that you have, but also the amount of money that you have set on the side that's not in your poker bankroll that you're fine with adding on later. So, it's a combination of what people like to call your life roll and your bankroll. So money outside of poker and money dedicated to poker. If you're willing to take more money, if you can afford to take more money from your life roll or your savings or whatever you want to call it in your bank account, then it's fine to do a more aggressive approach. Personally, I am a bankroll nit, so I deposited $400 and I'm currently playing 5NL. So I currently have 80 buy-ins, so I'm round up here, but I don't plan on staying at 5NL very soon. And by the time I get to 20L, I'm going to be down here. So at the beginning of this course, watching me playing 5NL, I have a very conservative level buy-in, but I'm going to try to move up to 25NL fairly quickly, and I'll be down here. And that's fine for me. So that's the amount of buy-ins, and pick and choose whatever you're comfortable with. If you're not really sure, it's always just a safe assumption to go with around 30 to 40 buy-ins, and I'd recommend 40 buy-ins is a good starting point. Now, if you're currently playing online, and you played a decent sample of hands and you have win rate recorded, then stay tuned for the next lecture, because that lecture is for you. That's going to help us fine-tune your bankroll management needs, so you can use that tool to determine exactly what you're going to need. So before we end this lecture, we need to talk about one more thing, which is called a session stopgap. So what in the world is that? Well, a session stopgap is a way to prevent you from shooting off lots of chips when you're running bad or you're playing bad. So essentially all it says, and what we follow is you say, stop playing when I lose X amount of buy-ins in a single session. And the biggest thing we want to focus on is X. So you're going to set that to a number of buy-ins. So for example, if you say, if I lose any more than 2 buy-ins, then I'm going to quit. So if I've lost a buy-in, then next thing you know, I lost just 1.5 buy-ins, and I'm down 2.5 buy-ins, and I'm done. You have to quit for the session. Again, maybe it's 3 buy-ins, maybe it's 4 buy-ins, maybe it's 5 buy-ins. And it's going to be a factor of the size of your bankroll. The smaller your bankroll, then the smaller your stopgap needs to be. So if you are taking shots with a 10 buy-in bankroll, then your stopgap needs to be smaller. If you are taking shots with a standard bankroll, maybe it's somewhere within these two. And if you have a huge bankroll, then maybe it's around 5 buy-ins for 100 buy-in bankroll. So you're okay with losing 5 buy-ins, and it's not really going to harm your bankroll. So again, this is also something you need to custom tailor for your own game and for yourself. You need to determine how many buy-ins are you okay with losing in a single session compared to your entire bankroll. If you have a 15 buy-in bankroll, 2 buy-ins is definitely a significant amount of your bankroll. And 5 buy-ins is a really large amount of it. So I definitely wouldn't recommend a 5 buy-in stopgap. With a 10 and 15 to 20 buy-in, I'd recommend anywhere between 2 and 3. If you have a 30 to 40 buy-in bankroll, anywhere between 3 and 4 is fine. And then if you have a huge bankroll, then 5 buy-ins or more is fine. And there's another factor in here that I really didn't talk about, but it's your mental game and tilt. So I'll just type in tilt. In really big letters, I'll write that in. And this is the biggest thing. So how soon are you going to tilt? Are you going to tilt after 1 buy-in loss? Or are you going to tilt after 2 buy-ins? Are you going to tilt after 3? Well, you want to stop before you start tilting. You want to stop before your mental game is affected and you start playing poorly. So all that comes into factor. And that's pretty much all there is to bankroll management. Well, it's not everything, but all that I wanted to talk about in this introductory lecture. So just remember the different type of buy-ins, and remember the concept of the stopgap. And stay tuned for the next lecture, because in the next lecture we're going to go over a poker variance tool called Poker Dope, and I'm going to show you how to fine-tune your bankroll management needs if you've been playing online for quite some time and you know your current big blind per 100 win rate. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions about bankroll management, let me know. If not, we'll see you in the next video.